And we're live.
Hey, hey.
Hello, everybody. I see Dave's complaining about warm weathers, and here in Sweden we just got like go outside without a jacket weather, and I'm happy about it. And first thing I get is complaints from others in warm countries. Come on,
Uh, here,
you
here in the
don't know the
UK,
struggle.
yeah, here in the UK, going outside in jacket weather's all year round. Doesn't
Yeah,
doesn't matter
but you
how
get rain
cold
all
it
the time, don't
gets.
you?
Um, no, like we don't. We just have grey. That's just our weather. It's just grey. There's no
Well, okay, fine, but
like it doesn't rain loads. It doesn't rain like a small amount. Like, but when it just we just get this crap drizzle that isn't a lot. It's just But
so you could technically define it as gray.
grey.
Yeah, great. Anyway, so yeah, we're live. You're right, Jay. And actually, this week is going to be we're officially um set up a new, I suppose you could call it a pattern that we didn't have last week. Because to set up a pattern, you want to have a confirmation. You want to have one bounce and then another one, and then a confirmation of both. So then you know that you're in that, which also kind of concludes it usually. But we'll get into that too. Um, but not much has happened. We had a big downturn. We had a big bottoming, and so on. So
And
we'll
that is
see.
about it.
Yeah.
That's it's really in the sense of what happened is what we said was going to happen, and
Yes. As per usual.
exactly as predicted.
Pretty much. But I'm gonna share my screen here real quick before we kind of lose track here. Um, so everybody who's been here before, you've seen this structure before. This is the whole bear market bottom sideways type thing that we've been in forever. Um, and we're now in kind of a bull market structure. But so what's happened here since the last time, and I'm gonna zoom in here right away. Uh, Monday's show, we were on this candle right here, and we had that big dip, and that was why we started. If you remember, if you were there, we started a bit earlier, just because it started crashing down as we were going live. And our prediction basically was, if I remember correctly, that we're probably going to see a downturn and come back down to this line down here eventually, not right away, but eventually. And we saw this type of move here, and we had a bottoming
Yeah.
signal right here. Um, so we've seen what we were expecting. Yeah, we're now having a bounce, and you got to keep in mind this is the daily chart, right? And technically we would say that we were going to wait and see kind of a return back to this to see if this is still resistance or if it's just ignored. And that would probably meet up pretty well with the Bollinger middle band and the RSI kind of mid levels. So I would say for me that looks like it's going to be resistance. It's basically, we haven't retested that yet, so we'll see what that does. But I think being in this new descending channel is what it is. You have a bounce here, you have a bounce here, one here and one here. And this, we could probably extend this a little bit just to make it a little bit easier to see the longer term type thing. There we go. I would expect us to move through this and come back down to here. That's my personal prediction.
Yeah, I see. I have that slightly differently drawn. I have it using the daily closes from a few days further back.
Okay.
So if you go from the start of the bottom line, it makes a very nice wedge. If you take the start and move it back to
all the way over here.
No, forward, there, left,
Forward,
left. No, left.
We're going
there.
left.
Yeah.
There.
Yes.
There.
And that makes a
Yes,
very,
yes.
very nice little daily descending wedge.
Yes, that would work too. Yes,
which I like more. So it's better.
You see, the reason to why I like my more, and I'm gonna argue with you on this one.
Yeah, argument.
Is because this is where we kind of took off, and for me, looking at it like this,
yeah,
is it's more of a channel. And
Oh, look
yeah,
at
I
you
guess
just drawing
they're
lines to
they're
fit what you want
they're
instead
both
of the
valid. They're
instead of the nice confirmed one. Yeah, just
it's
just
both
start
valid,
drawing lines anyway.
but here it's not really hitting it perfectly there
Yeah, but
either.
it is
But
though, because look at all the wick touches. If you take that line and
yeah,
zoom it, take that line and zoom into the hourly, and you'll see how well it was
yeah,
respected.
okay, yeah, I agree with you. You found
Right.
something that I didn't find.
Shh.
No, but looking at the 4 hourly, I was actually gonna zoom into the 4 hourly anyway because it's easier to see the whole
So
short
we
term
see
stuff here.
we do see very often we see these little drops below resistances or wicks above support. They are wicks on the daily, but
Yeah,
you see these drops, and then quite clearly that was Bitcoin found a bit of demand at these areas, and it
yep,
it broke through the line, and that's where all the buy orders were stacked, and we've bounced quite nicely. But yeah, we have still formed I would say I would call it a bullish pattern. However, it's still a downtrend. So bullish
yeah,
patterns can be invalidated. Or we
yeah.
just carry on trading in this downwards slash sideways period for, I mean, how long? Where does that end?
Um, I would say this kind of ends well mid-June,
Yeah,
basically.
I mean,
Uh,
we could just be really boring until then. Like that is not a surprise to me.
no, I think that's kind of been our sentiment for a while
Yeah.
now since we got out of this area. That it would just be boring.
Hmm.
Because like we usually say, everything needs to kind of reset to start looking, bullish again, and we still haven't gotten down to oversold on the RSI or anything like that. So I definitely could see just this boring sideways. And actually, Rob, when I zoomed into the 4 hourly here, um, I think if I move back to my thingy here, it actually looks even better.
Well, there you go then. Still, there you go. Happy days.
Yeah, so they're both valid,
Yeah.
depending on time frame, obviously. But we tend both you and I we tend to kind of look at longer term stuff.
I'm
zooming
perfectly
in here is
happy
like,
with both because it's like when you zoom in you see okay, there's a touch, there's some nice touches that's and I like the 4 hour in general. The 4 hours a very nice intermediate sort of
yeah,
timeline between short and long. So
yeah,
yeah, I like it.
yeah. I mean, on the 4 hourly, if we're gonna actually look into this a little bit more, just looking at the RSI is actually above the midline here, and we have, we are above the Bollinger as well. So technically on the 4 hourly, we've gotten out of this down trend below the Bollinger Band, and now we're above it, and we kind of want to see that, if that makes sense. That's the ugliest drawing I've ever done. But you get my drift, right? We kind of want to see this type of uptrend until we hit this or something like that. But I still think that both you and I would agree that we need to see a return down back to this fib level to kind of retest this area, right?
It just looks, say if you look now, you look at where you've drawn and see that bottom, that intersection between the downtrend and the uptrend that corresponds just perfectly to these levels. And it is quite funny how often you see these, you think that's such a precise point. I mean, you can pin it to a day or two, and quite often you see Bitcoin that will actually go and touch right towards that sort of apex. So, that is a nice sort of price target. Because it's a price target, a lot of people will now be drawing this downtrend. They've already got the uptrend. You see a perfectly clear bottoming sort of V, and so it's a perfect place for it for those buy orders to stack towards that time.
Yeah, and I mean, whoa, I don't know why I clicked that. There we go. I mean, and just this candle right here speaks to me. It's.
Does it speak volumes?
I didn't want to say it, but yes. It speaks volumes. But no,
I'll tell you, do you know what really does speak volumes is the volume.
Yeah. Nobody cares.
Okay. Nobody in China cares.
Nobody using Binance cares.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. Nobody in China cares. I mean, that is
fair enough.
that no, I mean, come on, just look at it and then apply some logic.
Yeah,
That drop off means that at that very precise period, somebody incredibly large stopped trading.
yeah, yeah,
Like, and by incredibly large, gigantically large. Now,
yeah,
who has that much Bitcoin that they're suddenly deciding not to be either
yeah.
buying around the, buying on the market, because if they're accumulating, then yeah, that
I mean, honestly, I think it has to do with the fact that no one is trusting this and trading this top around here. Like nobody knows is it going to
I
go
just
up, is
don't
it going to go
like.
down.
I just don't like how abruptly the volume dropped and then
Yeah, I
flatlined.
actually, yeah, I think actually, I think this, I need if somebody could check this out. I believe this is where they removed because on Binance they
I
had no
I'm
trading
just
fees, I think,
yeah,
on Bitcoin, and I
and
think they
that's why they
added it
removed it.
back
Yeah,
here.
that would
Um,
make sense.
I don't quote me on it though, but I think that might be what did that. But then suddenly I'm like, wait a minute, Binance is the largest by a large margin, exchange, and no one is trading on it.
Well, not compared to what they were.
Yeah.
So
So
quite simply, they clearly they're not trading the way that they were.
it could be a lot of accumulation happened during this phase here, and then when we got out of this range here, people just said, "I'm done accumulating. I'm gonna wait and hold, wait for, Bitcoin having whatever, just accumulate on like a small scale, or start buying maybe altcoins and stuff like that." I mean, looking at Ethereum, still has kind of the same volume, sort of. It's down. What's all these lines? I don't even know what I've done here. Solana,
Uh,
same
uh,
thing, same volumes.
I just have it finding
Um,
an update. Oh, no, that's 2022.
and Matic, still same kind of volume. So it could be as simple as, you know, or it could also be that there's not much miners selling anymore either, because they don't have to.
Yeah.
I don't think that has a massive impact here, but it certainly has some kind of impact on the volume, I think. Maybe it's not measurable, actually, now that I think about it a bit further. But yeah, either way, honestly, the only TA we have here is basically the continuation of this trend here. I'm kind of expecting it to carry on going, this way. Maybe with, like, generally speaking, I mean, if the Bollinger Band here, the orange one, just carries on going like this, which it would if we were doing this type of stuff, which tends to make sense a little bit on the 4 hourly when you look at the like on the daily, from other time periods. But yeah, honestly, I'm waiting for 25K still. I don't know. Maybe that's bearish. I don't know what the sentiment is
Well, yeah,
really.
but it's not from 27K. It's not. It's neutral for
Yeah,
Bitcoin. A 10% drop is neutral. So
yeah, I
no,
would say so. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like that
Fair enough.
to say for me from here, given that the bearish move has now mostly or half happened for this current phase. Obviously, it could break down
Yeah.
more and we have a complete and total collapse. But if you look, that blue arrow to me just
Mm-hmm.
looks very logical that we come down there and then we start to reevaluate that uptrend again, and we can then decide if things are going to collapse, they'll collapse from there.
Yeah.
So
And,
it's
exactly.
not going to collapse until it gets there. Now, if something tragic happens, yeah, we could just fall over and have a 20% drop back to that uptrend. Do I think that's likely? I don't. I just don't think that's likely. I think it's more
Yeah.
likely that we see horrible grindy price action during these periods of low volume, because that's literally what is these kind of trading periods are. They're low volume chop, and speculators and people who aren't experienced and don't understand how these sort of horrible market moves work, they just get constantly chopped out in both directions as the price just ranges, but ranges in an unconventional way. You can't. It's quite hard to pick really clear buy and sell positions sometimes, because it's going to just break resistances at random and it'll just drop down and then start trading sideways, because all it's
Yeah.
done is it's pushed through a level of liquidity, and then once it drops down, it gets sandwiched between two new levels of liquidity, and so you just see BART price, kind of the way that we have done for weeks and weeks on end, and it's
Yeah.
crap, but
Yeah.
but very good, but very, very good for accumulating him.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big reasons to why I'm saying this makes sense and is logical and everything is because if we want to bounce in a meaningful way, we need to do it from a meaningful spot in the price. And like an example of this is, bouncing on this here was mainly because it's the fib level, right? Breaking through and having this massive candle breakout was because we finally cracked through this and closed the candle above it, right? And then coming down here and retesting this bounce is because we had this long trend here, right? We broke below it now. The next meaningful support level is back at this fib level right here. And that's why it's just a logical thing. We're seeing the RSI coming back down here. And it kind of usually we don't really get a meaningful bounce until we see something like this. Look, oversold, sideways move, but then it went, right? That was just a big bottom thing. But we don't really see anything happening in a meaningful way until we are way above or at least below. So from here, we went from down here all the way up here. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to happen the same way here, but that would make sense at least to kind of go from here and maybe up to this one eventually, not straight up like we did here. But I mean, that's a possibility too, right?
Yeah.
But we're waiting for that meaningful level of support. And that's the closest one we actually have, because we haven't really created any big meaningful bottoms here. This is not the same as this one. This is a brand new one from, I don't even know why it's bouncing there, to be honest with you. It's kind of a random price. Probably people front running the 25k level, maybe.
Well, I think say for that one, it's as you say, as you drew it, the 4 hour, that line, that it bounced on that trend line, and the 4 hour was just a cleaner place for it to bounce.
Yeah.
So that's it's random in terms of where it bottomed, but only just because it had that little wick below, and clearly there was no considerable buy pressure down there.
Yeah, no,
Sell
exactly.
Pressure,
yeah, but I mean, and this is where the RSI went below as well on the 4 hourly. So it's like once it gets there, people tend to just say, "Oh, RSI is there, buy a little bit," and that's.
Oh yeah, I mean, I literally have an
idea.
indicator that says buy when this happens, and
that's part of the strategy we built for Crypto Talks, right?
So, and I just did that. Use that one absolutely on its own. Like, here's something. If you want a DCA, here is a good time to DCA. End of.
Yeah.
Like history says, every single time this thing happens is a good place.
I honestly, I think the RSI is like the best. Like when people say, "Oh, buy the dip" type thing, it's like buy the dip means buy oversold RSI on the daily.
Yeah,
that's literally what it is.
Buy relative cheap bargains. Right, buy when the price is relatively cheap, and so a relative strength index is quite good at telling when the price is relatively cheap.
Relatively cheap, right here, all over the place.
All over the place.
No, you're right. I actually wanted to have a look at the weekly because we haven't looked at that for a couple of weeks. Because if I remember correctly, and I haven't looked at this myself yet, but if I remember correctly, we were talking about how the weekly was way, way, way like above where, it's starting to get dangerous. Dangerous. But yeah, we actually came up to just above, it seems. Actually, I have to open this RSI up just below overbought.
Yeah.
But that apparently was enough right here on the weekly. And we said, oh, we might see it come back to the middle Bollinger Band and all these things. And people sometimes bash me for using the Bollinger Band so much, but it works. Like, it's one of the easiest indicators for people to use. So they use it, which means it works, right? So if I remove this arrow here, the weekly is literally meeting up with the Fibonacci level that we keep talking about here right now. This is the weekly Bollinger Band midline. And now that's coming up as well. And next week it's going to be above it, which means that we have even more support to bounce above that line. which
Yay.
is a good sign for a continuation of an uptrend and that parabolic
Mm.
thing that Kevin Svensson keeps talking about, which I kind of like, even though I don't really trust parabolic structures and all that. You can literally put that on anything. I feel like it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't mess with that too much, but it's a cool idea. Um, and in the past we've had these, you know, here's a bounce on that, and maybe we see another one here.
Mm.
We can just wait and see it. Wait 2-3 weeks. Like you said, what did you say? Did we say 15th of June? We might see some type of reaction from the market, something like that.
Maybe. I don't know. Be nice.
It would be. It would be nice.
Just looking at what Jay said. Speaking of indexes, what does the Fear and Greed Index say? It is at 50.
Yeah, let's have a look at that. I
It,
actually have
it,
it here.
it
Yeah.
is it is bang on neutral at 50.
Let me zoom this in so you all see it properly. Here we go. Yeah, so it's dead on 50.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm like, it can't get more neutral than this.
No.
It really can't. So for me, this is one of those moments where I'm like, I'm not gonna be in the market right now. Like, I'm not gonna think about selling or buying. I'm waiting to see. When I see it sitting up here, right here, that's when I'm like, maybe you should sell here, even if the TA is kind of like, eh.
It's another thing of going. I would never, because we've seen how long the period can stay in fear and in greed. If you got a max,
yeah, there we go. I was
then
looking for that.
But even so, you can see the periods of spike. The periods when it spikes up. Those dates, they coincide with tops. So what is clear that we are coming out of the worst. We've reversed the trend.
Yeah.
In sentiment.
Precisely.
And that could be, if you go back to say 2019. No, you have to stay on max. But if you look at like 2019, where we had, we start, you started to break out in that middle of the year. We had, got to the same sort of period we are now, and that was the 14K top in June 2019.
Yeah, right.
No, that's June 2019. Yeah. So you see, so you see, we had this period of gradually building and building and building sentiment, and then we had our top, and then it rolled over again, and that this corresponds perfectly to these mini bull and bear markets that Bitcoin has had. Yep. And if we can look at it as an overall 4-year cycle, but no, Bitcoin has had multiple bull and bear cycles within those. 2018 was one, the end of 2019 was one, then it started to recover and collapsed again, and and that was it took 8 or 9 months to recover from even that drop.
Yeah.
Then we had the China ban in 2021, in the middle of 2021. That was 3 months of a 50% drop. And then we had obviously 2022. So we've had a year of downtrend. Oh, sorry, we had a year since pretty much the bottom, if you account for the black swan of FTX not being a sort of true bottom. We're now coming up to 12 months from the bottom. We've had a huge accumulation period. Like, we could start to see this, come down to, as we say, this, these sort of support levels, and then see a really, really ferocious bounce and some continuation. That's what the big picture is really saying. And we need to wait for that sort of big picture to reverse, because it is saying, that the extent of the bearishness is done with. Doesn't mean we can't have another shitty few months, because as we can see here, it can just roll over whenever it wants.
Yeah, precisely. And arguing for and against bear and bull markets right now, like if we're looking at the cycles, which we kind of touched on here with, we're having all these moves here. Just looking at the MVRV, for me, is one of those things where I kind of confirm that we're out of a bear market, because usually over time, I don't know if I need to zoom this in or if it's
it's pretty clear, I think. Yeah.
It's pretty clear. But like all the way back in 2012, we had this, huge topping, and then it fell down, it came down here. This is where you tend to want to accumulate. That's like the bottom of the bear market stuff. See it right here. It's below the blue line. It's the price action. It's the black line right there. And then you have these You have these peaks, and then you have the bear market back again. The bottom of the bear market is right here, which was the zone that we were in when we had that big range that we keep talking about from, over, let's see, over here, this whole area right here. And that shows up right here as inside of this green box, basically, where you want to, that's the bottom of the bear market, right? Mm-hmm. And we're out of that now. And, when we get out of it, we don't come back down into it for quite some time. I mean, look at this run right here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be the exact same thing. We might see something like this.
If you look, we had the COVID crash where we saw it drop into it again. But yeah, you've got what is that thing of tempering expectations, that if you look at the last cycle when we came out of it, it was a long time until we really broke out in price. And so having the fact that we are already, we've had a rally that, nearly 100% rally up from the bottom. 100%, even I know Bitcoin people expect sort of thousands of percent, but during these periods, 100% is a very good move in an asset like Bitcoin. And it could carry on. And I would never ever suggest, sell everything and Bitcoin's rallied 100%. Shut up, Rob. That would be a stupid thing to do. But just to be aware, it can drop 30% for not really much reason. And we can't do anything about that. So, if you look at what, say, a 30% drop would be from the top, it's back down to, say, it's 21-ish K.
Let me I'll just say from here down to here, that was 22.5% ish. From here, we're already dropped 19% almost if we come back down to this line right here, to the fib level. And that's a normal kind of healthy correction for Bitcoin.
I think
it's a standardized correction.
2017 was the last year that Bitcoin didn't drop 50%.
In a correction.
Right? In a year, Bitcoin has dropped 50% or more every single year since 2017. And in 2017, it had multiple 30 and 40% corrections, like multiple times in a hell of a bull market. 2016, I don't think there was a 50% correction in 2016, but there was in 2015 and 2014 and 2013 and 2012 and 2010. So you're talking about, Bitcoin does this every single year, and it's been, realistically not far off a year if you exclude the FTX crash, which I think we can. It's been about a year since we had a 50% crash. It's so, we could have a couple more months of rally and then a few more months of basically collapse and end up exactly back where we are today, and everyone will be miserable. Whereas right now, everybody's kind of chuffed.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of arguments for, a big correction coming sometime this year. Mainly because I'll take one example. I think I mentioned this last time as well. The GDP of the European Union's drop was, I think, Q3 last year was at 3.6% growth, right? Mm-hmm. Q4 was 2.6, I believe. And then for Q1 this year, the expectation was 2% growth, but it was 1.1 or something like that, which means we're falling into, and Q2 will be worse, most likely, which means that we will be we're going to start flirting with negative GDP growth for the first quarter in a long time in the European Union, right? And as people know, a recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. And if that happens, it's a crap metric. It's the crappiest metric. But like for the normies out there and all the like the mainstream people that are not people like us that sit here every day and just nerd out on this stuff, when they hear the word from an official politician somewhere that goes, "We're in a recession," then they freak out. We've been freaking out since 2021.
So so the way to think of is think how if you think how many working days there are a year, and there's roughly 250 working days a year, and so if you have something like a bank holiday, that is 0.4% each day off, each public holiday is 0.4% of your annual working. That's part of your working time. The UK is going to have three public holidays this month. So
Oh,
that's like 1.2% of the extra sort of those available working days taken off. And so what you can have is that, oh look, Christmas was really, really good. And so then you'll have a high point, and then they'll have, you can manipulate Q1's metrics and then have, okay, we've got a negative in Q2. The UK will go, oh look, that was because of the bank holidays. So we won't count that one. And so we'll say, yeah, we're not actually in a recession because Q1 was really bad, but Q4 was really good, even though that was because of Christmas. And Q2 was we can account for. And they do silly little tricks and go, no, we're not really in a recession when you actually add it all up. And it's like, shut up. Yes, we are. It's a simple, that's the.
I think we've said since, oh, gosh, for a year probably we've been saying we're in a recession. Like
We're in it's a slow
recession.
It's a slow grinding recession because we're still seeing the impacts.
Let's put
start to filter into the economy.
Like, let's put it simply. We've been screaming about what's happening right now since early 2022, probably. Like between us as friends and before we started this thing, we've been talking about this happening for over a year and a half, literally. And now it's like happening, and now people are freaking out. We're like, bruh. So okay, let's do this.
Yeah,
Rob. I know you gotta go, and I kind of gotta go too. I know you got you got football, I think, right?
That's the one.
That's the one. So we're gonna wrap it up here, guys. We started late today, unfortunately. Don't even know why. I think we were just lazy today.
No, because I'm at my dad's. I'm not home.
Oh yes.
So
yes.
if I'd have done it at home, I'd have then had to power drive to get there on time. So
right.
Some technical errors, but we got there.
Hey, they hear you just fine.
That's fine. Yeah, my headphones don't work. Not work today, but
well, the headphones work, but the mic doesn't. So
yeah. Well,
it's all good.
Whatever.
All right, cool guys. We're gonna wrap it up here. You guys remember what to do. You know exactly what to do. You gotta share this thing. You gotta like, subscribe, all these things. Tell everybody you ever known, and
subscribe or die.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't, a coconut will fall on your head. Maybe, probably not.
If you don't do it, I'm gonna go round to your houses. I'm gonna plant coconut trees in your garden, and then in 30 to 40 years, you are screwed.
I've never heard anyone threaten anyone with planting coconut trees in their yards.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's so sinister.
What if they move?
I'll dig the tree up and take it with them. Free of charge.
Free of charge. All right, perfect. All right, guys, we're finishing up here. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
There it is. Bye.